Greetings, fellow travelers, explorers, independent thinkers, and seekers, and welcome to the Nexus. On this NexCast, we begin the journey of In Search of Independent Researchers and the coming original content creators. Today's guest is Josh Kintigh, founder, purveyor, and independent researcher with Ancient Amnesia, a group of like-minded individuals searching for facts, data, and information across the vast field of knowledge and truth. Founded in 2013, Ancient Amnesia was born from the inspired imagining of what happened before our time and how we can rediscover what we have lost. Our past becomes forgotten in the mist of time, and memory dies with the death of civilizations. Entire cultures become buried and hidden, falling victim to the elements and slowly erasing them from our awareness, century by century. The passion at Ancient Amnesia is to excavate and rediscover the pieces of these broken and forgotten worlds, and slowly piece them back together once again, so that they can help us slowly reveal the untold stories of our origins. All links to Josh's work can be found in the description below. Welcome to the discussion, and bon appetit. And welcome to the Nexus NexCast with our guest, Josh Kintigh of Ancient Amnesia. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. How are you?
Well, I'm above average, but I'm getting better. I wanted to thank you for joining us on the show today because, you know, the whole subject is about in search of the independent researcher and original content creator. And as I've been talking about on Rocky's show and some of the previous Nexus shows, and including the one with Jeff Harmon we just did, there's an amazing opportunity going on out there in the world of content creation. And I see a lot of people like yourself, independent travelers, explorers, researchers, seekers, coming out and saying, look, I've had some interest in these kinds of subjects in this particular area of expertise or subject matter domain. And gee, with all this technology, I can just really get on it and I can really explore it and I can educate myself. And as you go through that education, you find yourself coming up with all kinds of crazy, amazing things, which I think kind of points to what you're doing with Ancient Amnesia. Tell us about Ancient Amnesia and how you ended up where you're at right now.
Well, you know, you're right. I mean, it's I think, you know, humans in general are just passionate creatures that like to get their hands in everything, you know, and I think that anything that gets developed, you're going to have people just jumping on it, becoming masters at it, advancing it, and that's the beautiful thing about humanity. One of the things that we do really well is we take things, we make it better, we advance, we learn from each other, and we're all artists at heart. We all have this, you know, passion to create and passion to express ourselves. And you know, you're an artist, you're a guitar player, you do all kinds of other things, but we're all basically trying to express our passions in every way possible with the little time we have. So that's basically, you know, why I started Ancient Amnesia. When I was young, I was, you know, into ancient history, and the more I read and learned about ancient history, I realized how much we actually don't know about what actually happened. And to such an extent that you come to a realization that we as a collective humanity, we actually have zero knowledge about the origins of our civilizations and how far back that goes. And even in science, we don't even know the origins of life itself. So there's much more mystery than there is answers to everything. And so as I began researching and learning and getting things you know, stuffed in my head, I just felt that I needed a way to share this knowledge and document it and kind of reserve it for other people to go back and have kind of a line of information that they could go to as a resource. So I created a page and created a site, and you know, I've just been trying to get the message out there, and it's grown pretty good. You know, I've got a pretty big following, and I just, you know, just inspires me to keep going. So that's kind of what happened in a nutshell.
So you ended up pursuing something that you had a passion for and found the vehicles and the ways to get, not only put it together, but to get it out there.
Right. I'm just using the tools that were available. Back when I started, there wasn't really the internet. Back when we were reading this stuff and learning in school, the internet was developed as I was growing up. I'm 38. So, when I was in my teens and stuff, we didn't have the internet. But now we do. And like you said, that the tools that are available today for the common man are to such a degree that I think what's happened is a kind of an information revolution where everybody's connecting with each other and making friends and sharing knowledge. And I see this kind of coalescence going on with kind of the human mind and ideas. And it's a beautiful thing, so I'm just trying to be a part of it. And I'm trying to create my own little painting, my own little angle, my own little, Josh Zaz that I can push out there, and I hope people enjoy it, and I'm more than happy to bring anybody on and listen to them, because my angle is not really to talk to the guys that everybody knows. My angle is to talk to everybody that no one knows, because I think a lot of people have a lot of knowledge in their head. They're just waiting to spill out, and you're going to meet some interesting people along the way if you just tap on the shoulder and ask them some questions. So that's kind of my MO with the page and the site. It's been a fun process.
Well, I know that you've been focusing on a particular format. Let's talk about some of the content that you're doing on Ancient Amnesia and what drives what you select that you put out there. There's an amazing amount of content, subject matter. There's old stuff that's being uncovered. There's new stuff that's being created, and there's everything in between. And it's amazing, the proliferation and the ubiquity of that information, because like you said, anybody, if you've got internet connection and a uniblab, a smartphone, right? You have literally access to an information source that is so vast that I don't think that, at least in a terrestrial sense, anything like that has existed before. Now, I know that you, in the Ancient Amnesia side, you've touched on Atlantis and Mu and ancient civilizations and ancient continents and so forth. On the Ancient Amnesia side, what are you seeing in that realm as you explore and research all these different models of civilization that keep coming up? And as Graham Hancock recently quipped, things just keep getting older.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that when I guess to answer your first, kind of thread was that, my model is to post. Let's say, you go to a library. To me, the most interesting sections are the geology section, right? You got the sciences, but they're broken up into all these different things, right? Like biology and astrology and astronomy and all these things. And what I'm trying to do is basically have a really cool little, library that's got a little nuggets of knowledge from every single one of these fascinating categories, because to your point at the end there, it's going to take every category of science, every category of philosophy to be able to actually wrap our minds around to what's happened in the past, what happened is happening now, what's going to happen in the future. I mean, we can't look at things through isolated lenses. We have to kind of broaden our scope. And so I'm trying to create some sense of a platform that allows people to see not only the beautiful creatures of the world, like, biology, zoology, and but also some deeper things like in philosophy and maybe, the philosophy of science and, kind of astrophysics and all kinds of things, So there's always something for everybody. And I think that's been part of my success. It's just that, every third or fourth thing that I present, it's everyone on the page, everyone that's watching likes that. So if you have a 1-in-4 ratio, I think that it brings people, no matter what, they're going to keep going because that was a really cool picture, or that guy that was deeper thought that article was really good. And, everybody gets what they want. And so I'm just trying to make the most broadest brush have the most beautiful stroke, if that makes any sense.
That was extremely well put, and it also sounds like it belongs on a T-shirt.
Well, I do have T-shirts on my site. Maybe you gave me an idea there.
No, that was a great quote. So again, the type of content, I mean, it's like you're saying, and I'm finding, and that's why yeah, we have the portal as a part of the logo for the Nexus, is that, it's kind of like a Stargate. You see the different symbology of the at least represent 8 of the major domains of information, if you will. So there's an amazing amount of stuff going on across that spectrum. Forget about trying to look at any intersectionality and where
Correct.
they connect.
Yeah, you're exactly. That's the point.
Because but there again, we go there because we can. It's like, well, it's going to take some cojones to dive deep into this, and you're going to have to keep your nuggets on the table, because they can easily fall off or get knocked off or just vanish in some cases.
Yeah, you're right.
You're middle of a discussion. It goes, what? Where am I now?
Yeah, and what's happening like that with the dizziness? Part of the dizziness is coming from the fact that information is moving so quickly that there's no time to actually digest it. I mean, as much as you think you're getting it, you will find, and this has probably happened to many people listening to this, and myself, yourself included, that you'll discover some brand new thing that's years old in terms of even a video that was posted, and you're like, how have I never heard of this? This is a 6-year-old video, and then you realize the guy has all this work you've never heard of, and this just happens all the time. So you just don't have the hours in the day. 1/3 of your life you're sleeping, 8 hours of work. It's just there's so much. You're really trying to pump it all in. So I think that's part of it. Is just that by the time that you think you know what you know, there's been so many more advances that you got to change that view, because it's already advanced beyond what that stepping point was. And that's, I think, the challenge is to get the information out there, easily digestible, but complex enough for people to actually have, mental revolutions within themselves that advance them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about this explosion, in my opinion, of these independent researchers and content creators. It's always interesting when you see a paradigm shift in a particular activity, thought, social meme, technology, whatever it might be, business process, that there's this, and this is what we talked about in the first episode of Informatica with Rocky, was this concept of transformative disruption, and how often that happens. It's obviously a key tenet in the catastrophism models, right?
Right.
When there is a disruption of a transformative nature, like, I don't know, asteroid, comet, something coming in and smacking into us.
Well, don't you? One of the funny things is like the saying is, the eggs got cracked to get the chicken, right? Well, the dinosaurs turned into chickens, didn't they?
That's what they say.
Well, if a Tyrannosaurus Rex changed into a chicken because a comet hit, well, there's your egg has to crack to get the chicken scenario right there. So there's your kind of catastrophic, cataclysmic, kind of abrupt change model. In that old saying, right? I mean,
yes, and that reminds me of an old joke. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
I have no idea.
Neither. The rooster. Anyway,
yeah, done with the chicken jokes. Although I did hear one more, and it was what do you call a hen that knows how to counter eggs? A mathma chicken.
Oh man,
you're a dad, Robert. I figured you'd use that once or twice.
It's definitely just got added to the dad stack.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to get a bigger belly on you.
That's a dad joke.
Yeah.
So the content, and I consume it. I see it in my feed. You're on my gotta see it first checkbox, however they do that. And I've really enjoyed the eclectic nature of the different things that you're posting. You're covering everything from biology to ecology to archaeology, geometry even. And I noticed that you have a particular penchant for enjoying the intelligent design, atheist group of like-minded people who really enjoy your company and participation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think so. This is a personal devious endeavor of mine. I like to challenge people. Like in a statement, this is what I say about the general atheist idea is intelligent creature created by universe claims universe not intelligent. And I really don't understand how there's an argument going, because the argument itself requires intelligence, and everything that is real is actually form of thought, and conceptual, and yet we're stuck on this idea of materialism. And so, but in my opinion, really the biggest revolution that's happening apart from all of this, let's say that one of the biggest sleeping giants that is existing in the information revolution that is now occurring, we're in the middle of, and we're going to see develop and bloom, is this age-old, and I would say 150-year-old at least. It goes older. I mean, even the Greeks, but in general, really heavy push with this materialistic, Darwinistic religion versus science. There's a huge cultural undercurrent that exists in this particular realm that is, I think, probably the biggest sleeping giant under the belly of the information revolution. And I think that science is finally having to catch up to what ancient philosophers, mystics, you can name them a million ways, shamans, theologists, and even religious people in the past, some people like Aquinas and all kinds of people in the past that were saying this stuff all along. And so science likes to think itself is advanced, and science likes to think itself is finally ripping the truth, from the hands of the biblical minded people and gaining dominance. But what they're finding is very surprising. They're finding that a lot of the things that existed in the past actually are true, and that they're actually kind of like having to admit it, and that's a very uncomfortable position for them. And I'm just having fun, kind of, I guess, throw fuel in the fire of that, and show that it's through science that we are going to have a spiritual revolution. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But I think that's the biggest undercurrent that's going on in the cultural arena right now.
So if I understand what you just said, it sounds to me like you're trying to contribute positively to an evolutionary transformative disruption within the ideological, philosophical, definitely, if that's even a word, of the way in which they have constructed this argument, this position to establish why they believe or follow what is being defined as an atheistic model, meaning that as far as they are concerned, there is no it there just is there, right? There is no consciousness, there is no separate entity, intelligence, willful intended existence of being that exists. Everything simply is because that's what it is. There is no it in the is.
Yeah, correct. I mean, there's obviously a motive behind every action that we would call material, guiding and informing and coding, structuring. There seems to be this kind of force of will that can't be described. And and if you think about things that are science, right? Like Newton's law of gravity. Well, gravity is not really something that's material, is it? When we think of what science considers real, it's all things that are really not real. I mean, they're all just energy and kind of things that only math can describe. You can't actually see these things. You're just looking at how they exist on these, more conceptual levels. So, it's something that people need to, I think, really think about more. And I think that they need to try to get to a point to where they can connect with the sense of the gravity of reality and in their own way. And I think that's going to be the challenge, is as we pull ourselves out of these religious kind of structures, we're trying to create our own sense of who we are. And science is going to help us do that, but science itself has to first come to terms with what it's actually discovering, and quit denying reality, which is, that there is some intelligence behind this fabric that we're calling material.
Well, to me, and that's part of this amazing revolutionary thing that I'm waxing on about. there's always pain in growth and change. There's always obstacles and challenges and so forth. But if the change is at least allowed to unfold as it naturally would, with at a minimum a positive interaction with that change as it relates to you and to whatever the subject matter is, then things happen, much more. There's more smoothness, there's more harmony and flow in that change. However, when you start trying to go against the flow, or you stop, or you try to resist it, or you even try to push back on it, that's when things start getting, should we say, interesting, right?
Yeah.
And depending on which side of that you're on. So I think that part of what we're seeing is, and I tried to get to this point earlier, and I think I swung and a miss. One of the beautiful things I see in this, the technological enablement of individuals to find information, do something with it, and then put it back together and put it out there, is probably one of the most liberating and freeing expressions that humans have, that they experience, because I think it happens just as an artist, just as an individual. Just if you don't make any living from your artistry, but the passion and the power that's in that experience that you have with that artistry is so intense, it doesn't matter if anybody else likes it. In fact, it should always be that way. It's what how you feel about it. But that same passion, that same experience, I think, is what a lot of these independent researchers like yourself have experienced with gathering knowledge, with being able to find the information, find that knowledge, take those nuggets, put them on the table, spin them around, smack them around, examine them, figure out what's going on, and come to these enlightened realizations of what you thought you knew and what you didn't know, and the stuff that's in between. Things you speculated on, things you had some kind of imaginatory, whoa, what if?
It helps you look at yourself too.
Speaking of, we've just got about a minute left before the break here, Josh. Speaking of paying it forward, I've seen the pics. I've drooled all over the place. Give us a little update on the Kintigh Ranch out in the beautiful Texas countryside.
Well, I probably wouldn't have any of this passion driving me if I wasn't connected to nature in some way. I grew up on a small piece of land. I was never really raised in this city, and so I have a very big connection to the land and Texas in general, Central Texas, and so my family's had land passed down since they helped develop the state back in the day, and so it's kind of my job to go out there and put a little house up there and create my own space. And it's been a 5-6 year project. We finally got it early this year, and we've been developing it, and it's just been a dream, man. I mean, it's my church. That's where I go to plug in and recharge and get the juice for stuff like this. And so it's great,
I got to tell you, brother, you did it right. You married an incredibly gorgeous angel of a woman, and then you go out in the woods and build a place to live with her. I'm just saying, I'm just a little on the job.
Robert, you're welcome to come down anytime you want, buddy.
Be careful what you offer. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back in a few minutes with Josh Kintigh of Ancient Amnesia. Stand by. Welcome back to the Nexus NexCast, ladies and gentlemen, fellow travelers, explorers, independent thinkers, seekers of that which is, to make sure that whatever it is that you're looking at is actually is, and it ain't is. Is that right? Well, I struggled to pull that one out, but there we go. All right. We've got Joshua Kintigh on with us today talking about the In Search of the independent researchers and the content creation, explosion, experimentation, evolution, excitement that's at least we're seeing out there. And so we talked about some of that in the first segment. Now we'd like to go down the exploratory lane of trying to see who are these independent researchers? Well, what are we finding? Who's out there, who's been out there, who's just come out there. It's an amazing, eclectic, well-fertilized field of independent individuals that have gone down the path of passion. They've said, I'm going after this bit of nugget of knowledge. I'm going to create a nice little knowledge stack of nuggets of all of this information, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to make something out of it for myself. And if anybody else likes it, cool. But I'm really interested in making this amazing amount of information something that I feel very close to, something that I feel some ownership, some responsibility, and at least accountability for my interpretation of it. Because at the end of the day, everything is everybody's interpretation. Everything is speculation. Art is objective, subjective, speculative, personal, and it's passionate. Knowledge, logic, reason, critical thinking, those are all extremely passionate as well. Not enough has been done in those areas. I don't think it's exercised enough, in my opinion, Josh. I mean, I'm just, kind of going on one of our famous Robert rants here, but what I'm seeing is this explosion of, as we ended the first segment with, one of the things I think is extremely powerful and is going to be a major component to the fuel that drives this change of content creation and accessibility is the fact that there's no rules for now. The majority of the people that have started down this path have started it just with the intent to go do it, and the only rules, I guess, or restrictions that they had to deal with was the technology and the toys to go aggregate, accumulate, analyze, and assimilate all of the stuff that they've collected. But outside of that, if they've adopted anything in the thought paradigms of what they've collected, because there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be mythos, there's going to be philosophy, teachings, belief systems, scientific methods, models, and philosophies that are going to define whatever that knowledge set is. And if you take any of those and you look at them and just set them aside as attributes, as characteristics of the data that you've collected, then you can look at them objectively and you can come up with something that you look at and you go, well, that's not what I thought it was. It's not what I was told it was. That's not what I even imagined that it was. What it is something quite different. And why do I know that or have that experience? Because I've gone out and I've collected the nuggets. You've put them all on the table. And you're interested in sorting through them and trying to understand what's there. What are they individually? What are they collectively? Right. Where do they intersect, etc.? So the one of the most powerful things of this coming content creation explosion is that it's going to be a bunch of free balling, no rules, here it comes, content creation. And it's coming from more and more people with a passionate intellect, with enough integrity to really put together some profound and thought paradigm changing theories, hypotheses, content analysis, etc. So let's talk about some of these different people that fit that bizarre and vast category that I just laid out there. Because I got to say, the people I run across that I know, and knowing what they know, the fact that there may be a few thousand people that know about them in the world blows my mind.
Right. No, it's true. I mean, scouring the internet for knowledge and information is kind of like putting a billion-piece puzzle together without knowing what the picture is supposed to look like. I mean, you basically just you flip over a piece and you're trying to imagine what this piece belongs to, like, wait, how does this fit in? And what's the picture look? What's the big picture? You really have to find a lot of pieces, and then it becomes addicting because you've connected some, and then you think and then it starts to develop, but then there's this bigger atmosphere going on, and it becomes dimensional, and it just gets so in depth. And it's the entire, it's the whole saying that the further that you go down the rabbit hole, the less the people on the surface will believe you. And I think that's the addicting part of it, is that when you have so many people out there pumping out such high quality information, that you just can't wait to get your hands on the next. And it's really, I think, one of the most fascinating and exciting moments is like the connective points. It's whenever, oh, I heard this guy talk about this other thing just like that too, but this is a whole different angle. And so again, it's like connecting that other puzzle piece together, where you're like, okay, now I think, I'm definitely seeing a bigger picture here. You find isolated pieces, you can't find out where they fit. You put them to the side. You think, okay, well, they're going to go somewhere eventually. And I think that's basically what's going on, is that you have a lot of people that are providing information that's passionate to them, that came out of them putting their puzzle together.
I got to jump in here. When you said the puzzle piece earlier, I had this image of this universal puzzle, and it was on this gigantic floating table in the middle of space with stars, and there was just like pieces that were floating around, and all of a sudden they go and find a little spot, but it was this galactic plane of puzzle. So thank you for that image. It was quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you were talking about putting pieces together. To me, it was a pretty easy jump, but I think that's what's going on. At least it's a good image to go by, because the collective humanity, and if you look at it, if you really want to get out there, you think the collective humanity is basically using the information age to all together play this billion-piece puzzle game, where we all don't know exactly what's going to actually show up whenever we put them together. And I think that some people, they invest in a picture that isn't developed yet, and they don't want to look for more because they're starting to see a picture they don't want to see. But others were excited to kind of like, oh my God, I thought it was a rabbit. Oh my God, it's probably a dog now. And I think that that's kind of the general thing that happens with people. They either get excited because it's different than what they thought it was, or they get upset that it was different than they thought it was. But
well, don't you think that I think that's an inherent, Jeff Harmon and I get into this when we get into this cosmological consciousness, and how, there's all these different dimensional aspects of the way in which different thought paradigms and models have tried to define the existence that we inhabit from a conscious perspective. And there's some fundamental things that I'm kind of lining up with and enjoying the ride in the lane in that model, in that, one, it's all consciousness, two, it's all energy, and three, it's all cyclical. And there are multiple dimensions within each one of these, and frequencies, vibrations, etc. But the iteration of, peeps, the human physical experience, the carbon-based unit construct, there seems to be a great deal of evidence that it is an iterative experience. It is something that once you are here or have been here, you apparently revisit on some kind of level for what appears to be some kind of cyclical reason, whatever that might be. So my point there is that, to what you were saying about how, the resistance, people are going to resist. They're going to have a challenge to their worldview and to their paradigm of the way that everything functions. And this is one, I think, of one of the most important aspects of the content that's coming out of all these independent researchers.
Yeah.
It's the content is really profundity in such a profound way that it's a paradigm. It changes it. It just completely pushes over that which you think you knew. Now, a malleable mind, one who can, at least at a minimum for some short length of time, hold opposing views in your mind simultaneously and be able to not be resolved. Not being resolved, not having a definitive answer on anything, is a really powerful tool to enable you to not get screwed up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just called reality. I mean,
Yeah,
we
you think?
don't know what happens when we fall asleep. We don't know what the day is going to be like. We just don't know. And I think that coming to terms of becoming comfortable with uncertainty is, I think, the first step. If you can't become comfortable with uncertainty, then you're going to lock yourself in a box and you're going to try to over control. But the internet has shown us, and these content creators have really helped provide us with just the overall arching understanding that there was so much out there that we had yet to even know was even existing, not alone, new people coming up with knowledge and stuff, but just wow, our education was pretty limited and it was very controlled. And I think that's one of the first things that's happened. People are waking up and realizing, wow, there's so much out there that was wrong, was untruthful, was, assumed.
And one of the things that's unsettling to a lot of people is when you pull back the covers and you find out that it was wrong, and then you pull back the sheet and you see why it was wrong, then you can get a little ground off. You can get a little chapped ass and go, look, so what you're telling me in this document that is a official stamped establishment information and documentation, that you purposely went in and erased the history of a culture and their interaction with the remaining that you did leave. So you purposely did this, and you did it because you didn't like these people. Now, when you run into things like that, and it's across, pick a discipline, there's all kinds of crazy ass shit. In fact, speaking of that, before we start going down a list, did you hear, this whole climate debate, right?
Oh, yeah.
The whole climate change thing. So you know who Michael Mann is, right?
Yes, I do.
And Tim Ball. And did you know about the lawsuit that they were engaged in?
I did hear. I don't know the details, but I know.
All right, let me fill you in. You're going to love this.
Man's been under some fire, but rightly so.
So Tim Ball made a statement that, based on Mann's research, that he felt essentially that was flawed, and in order to prove that it's flawed, he needed the research. Mann countersued for defamation. They ended up in court. In court, Ball's lawyers demanded the MIC research, all of the data, which they said could prove Tim Ball's comment was truthful and not slanderous. So Mann was ordered by the court to turn over the papers. He refused.
Gee, wonder why.
He refused to return over the research and all the data, and therefore Tim Ball won in court. So in order to protect the information that Mann had created, that Tim Ball questioned, he had to pay all court costs. So it didn't cost Tim Ball anything. Michael Mann lost the court case because he refused to turn over the data, and it cost him the entire court proceedings and costs. Now, I'm completely on the grand minimum cycle wagon. There is ample proof to me that we are in a cycle that is exactly the opposite of what officialdom has put out there. So,
of course, yeah.
I'll use that as a segue to talk about one of the first guys that I think is just outstanding. Great stuff out there on the internet related to climate, Tony Heller. If you haven't seen him, go to YouTube, Tony Heller, and extremely well thought out, mature cat, does science. He does the science. He puts the data out there. And I think that his work is exceptional. So an independent researcher doing his own stuff, putting out his own content, doing a fabulous job. And another one along those lines is, of course, Ben Davidson over at Suspicious Observers, his daily morning on-the-clock review of all things going on in the world as it relates to the telemetry in the cosmic, both the solar and the geocentric data that we watch: electromagnetism, earthquakes, KP index, solar flare, solar winds. I mean, everything, all the telemetry and analysis of it. Ben does one of the best jobs out there. So there's two independent content creators that I think are doing. They are setting a standard going forward.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, at least we know something's working, right? In this broken system of, it's just favoritism, basically. But I, I think that again, one of these symptomatic things that are coming out of the information age is you can't run, you can't hide. Truth's going to come out, and there's going to be people are smarter than you think they are, and it's not just the peer-reviewed scientists, which we do know. You saw that Joe Rogan episode where the peer-reviewed science is not exactly as Loctite as people thought. So
Imagine that.
imagine that. They sent in some BS paper that was talking about something that completely doesn't even make sense, and they went ahead and approved it because they're really not, reading some of the stuff and just the things that go on. So we're realizing that the establishment is not as trustable as what we thought, and it's happening quickly. So these content creators are doing their job. I think this is where freedom's going to come. This is where the information is going to finally become viral, and the masses are going to have the ability to finally set free and wake up. And it's exciting. I mean, who knows what's going to come out of all this? But
so who are your new and favorite guys that you found and are following?
They're not really new. A lot of these guys are kind of older, I would say. I've been really researching lately the ID movement, the intelligent design movement, and looking at some of the research that's coming out of pretty much all fields. Michael Egner, who's a neuroscientist at Stony Brook University, recently blew my mind because he was basically showing the data, and this guy does brain surgery operations. This guy's very well known, is very highly acclaimed, and he's got some talks basically talking about the end of materialism and through neuroscience, that the difference between the mind and the brain. We know that materialism always says the brain creates consciousness, and neuroscience can prove, science can prove that's not true. And he's coming out with data showing that, you can keep splitting the brain up, but people still have the same personalities. They're the same person. So the personality does not exist within the brain. You can basically chop the brain in half and separate it, and you still have the same guy talking to you with all of his cognitive abilities. There's really, really amazing information. So Michael Egner's a whole new one. And of course, you have Michael Behe, who's doing the molecular machines research in the ID movement, talking about how you have this irreducible complexity. You can't take something like a bacterial flagellum and you can't basically take one piece off of it, which essentially looks like an onboard motor as it's propelling, bacteria. And so they're showing that what's underlying the mechanics of nature, what's actually behind the curtain of materialism, is some force of will, some intelligent design, and everything's agreeing with it. Whether you're looking at astronomy, whether you're looking at physics, whether you're looking at biology and chemistry, neurology, it's all there. The data's there. It's coalescing. It's coming together to a nexus, Robert. And within that nexus, I think that it's going to shine bright enough that people are going to look up and see the sun, right? And they're going to look up and say, wow. And I think that's going to be the new revelation. I think that's the undercurrent of culture now, is this kind of blending of ancient philosophy into this new science-backed, science-based spirituality. And it's exciting to pump this information out there. So that's where I'm looking right now. I'm looking at the ID movement, some philosophy, a little bit philosophy of science kind of stuff, because I just keep finding stuff. I mean, I'm digging and digging and digging, and I got books on order. I just can't. I don't have the time, Robert. I don't have the time, but I'm going to try.
Something tells me you're apparently going to make the time. Otherwise, you wouldn't be buying those books.
I wouldn't be buying the books.
Now, because I got to tell you, my personal journey, when I ran into information, again, in the series, and I want to have you on to talk about this because there's some interesting aspects in this model, but informatica, I'm just defining as the data sets within the existence that is, right? So it doesn't matter if it's how the metrics are created, how the symbology and the valuation of whatever it is created, manifests. There is some metric that becomes informatica about that thing. So it's delineated, differentiated. So it's something that you can actually have you have a reference to. Because if you don't have a reference to something, then it's kind of hard to examine it, all right,
Right.
or do anything with it. So to that point, or what you were talking about, which made me think about that, is that when you look at all of the different disciplines of thought, of the way that people consider the conscious experience, the engagement of whatever it is that you're doing. You and I right now having this conversation, over a few hundred, maybe 1,000 miles away, probably a few hundred, but we're doing it over not even the airwaves, it's in the airwaves of electromagnetic signals that are traveling in a way that is enabling us to apparently just be there almost instantly. Now, I got to tell you, as an old geezer geek, this is some cool shit.
It's only going to get cooler, my friend. It's only going to get cooler. You're right. I mean, everything's coming together. I think people are in for a ride. Everybody, no matter what stage they're at, they could be passerbys. They're going to see some stuff, whether they dig in or not. But, we got a lot to dig out, and we got a lot to unpack. And I think everybody needs to jump on and have some fun with it, because this is something that humankind has created. This is a mirror, I think, for us to kind of look at ourselves and decide collectively what we want to do with what we see. I think it's going to be a pretty amazing. I think once we all get the picture, I think that the next step is going to be the big point where we go, okay, we've seen it all. What do we do? What do we do with it?
I think that seeing it all is probably not going to happen in our lifetimes, but I can tell you this: the whole idea of being able to, just imagine and explore the concepts of different thought paradigms, different realities, multidimensional, whatever you want to put on it, universe, existence, consciousness. I mean, you can pretty much wrap anything around whatever you want. When you say multidimensional, you say, okay, in what way? Right. But I think that being able to be free enough to explore the available information, being able to have the tools that can allow you to go on the journey to go look for this information in the nuggets, and being able to then collectively share it in a disconnected but digitally dined in model is how this whole independent research thing is going to take off from a creation and delivery perspective. The stuff that is going to come out of all these different independent researchers' thoughts and ideas and what they're doing, and then putting them on tables with other nuggets of other individuals like we're doing right now, I think that's just going to be, it'll just explode in a way that it's like, oh God, now we got another paradigm. But this one's actually sounding pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's it's just going to be one of those things where I think it's going to grow to a point where even the control systems are trying to silence, this stuff. They can't. It's kind of like that. You remember the scene in Lord of the Rings whenever like the orcs were just about to take over the keep and everything was just about to go bad, and then Gandalf comes, the light hits, Gandalf comes, he races down there, and the Rohan guys, and they just literally just wipe all those guys off. And I think that's kind of, a good imaginary scene of what's going on with this whole this whole content creator push versus establishment, silencing, because with the internet, so much is happening so fast, they cannot keep up with the the censorship. They can't do it, and it's gonna push so hard where the wall break free. And then so I'm hoping that, and that's why my message to anybody out there, like, start a channel, present the information that's in your head, get out there and get your voice heard, because that's just another thing for them to have to then come and try to stop. And that the more we can get people out there saying the truth and saying what they think the truth is, the better.
And the stuff that's in between, things you speculated on, things you had some kind of imaginatory, whoa, what if, right? Because those are some of the most awesome ones. So that is a part of this independent research content creator wave of energy that's coming through. The second part that's really cool that I squirreled off on that I missed is the fact that they are given this opportunity, taking advantage of this opportunity, and they don't have any rules.
Right.
There's nobody telling them this is how you do it. Well, I mean, you get, people talking about production, little detail shit and all that and whatever, but nobody's telling them how to go find the information, how to do the analysis of the information, and then put it together. So it's a free balling, independent research information extravaganza of original content, and that to me is I don't tell you, man, it's got my juices going.
It's a house party, Robert, and we're all just doing keg stands, but that's right. I mean, I think what the information age has done is it's set the mind free. It's set the collective human mind free, and we always think of wisdom as the attainment of experience and knowledge, and I think that people are getting wiser a lot faster. I mean, it does look like there's some degradation, but that's because we've opened Pandora's box. We've able to see everything that's dark and inside us, and everybody that's dumb has a camera, and everybody that so we get to see the worst and the best, but we get to see it all.
Completely agree. I think that the grip has slipped and they're losing it. Josh, we're at the end of the show. We've got about a minute here. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find out more about Josh Kintigh and Ancient Amnesia?
Awesome. Guys, go to Ancient Amnesia on Facebook. Great group. I hope you like the content. We also have a discussion group. Robert's also a big part of that. You can talk to us personally on that and give us some ideas on what you think about the universe is all about. You can also go to my YouTube page. Please subscribe, Ancient Amnesia Podcast on YouTube. Where we try to produce as much content as possible. Love your feedback on that. We really just want you to be a part of it. So reach out to us and talk to us, and we'll respond and we'll welcome you with warm arms, man. So we just hope everybody enjoys it.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much for coming on today, Josh. It's always a pleasure. I know we've got hours in the archives that we've done that we could dig out and just throw out there at any time.
Oh yeah. There'll be more coming. So it's just a matter of time.
There's nothing like original content created by independent thinkers, travelers, explorers, and seekers, because that's what we're all about here at the Nexus. So till next time, folks, thank you very much for coming and joining in the Nexus NexCast, where interesting people talk about interesting subjects and have interesting conversations. Don't forget, we are all one in many, and many in one. Till next time.